Call the meeting to order, please. Ian, would you call roll?
Yep, Avon.
Here.
Caledonia.
Here.
Canisius.
Here.
Geneseo.
Here.
Groveland. Lester. Lima.
Here.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Here.
North Dansville.
Here.
Dundee.
Here.
Ashen. Portage.
Here.
Sparta.
Here.
Springwater.
Here.
West Sparta.
Here.
York.
Here.
I'd like to ask Ashen Supervisor Dwight Knapp, please lead us in the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Had the minutes of the last board meeting of May time for your consideration. Does anybody have any changes they'd like to bring forward after they review those minutes? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion in a second, please.
Move, Schuster.
Second, Lester.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Those meeting minutes are carried. Next, we have an abstract of claims.
Mr. Chairman, I move this abstract of claims and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Is there any questions on this abstract of claims? Hearing none, Ian, would you please call the roll?
Yep, Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Aye.
North Dansville.
Aye.
Dundee.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York. Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted.
We do have one resolution on the preferred agenda this afternoon.
Yes, that would be appointing member to the Western Regional Off-Track Betting Corporation Board of Directors, Thomas Wamp.
Is there any discussion on this one resolution? Hearing none, I look for a motion in a second, please, to bring it to a vote.
DeZavo. Wadsworth.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. That's carried. Ian, if you would, the roll on this.
Yep, Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia. Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Aye.
North Dansville.
Aye.
Dundee.
Aye.
Ashen. Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York. Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted.
Very good. Next, we have resolutions that are going to require a separate roll call vote.
Mr. Knapp, amending 2023 Livingston County budget, Department of Health, Highway, there are 5, and the Sheriff's Office.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Is there any questions or discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, I'll roll, please, Ian.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia. Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Aye.
North Dansville.
Aye.
Dundee.
Aye.
Ashen. Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted. Authorizing allocation of American Rescue Plan funds, Livingston County Workforce Development.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Is there any questions or discussion on this ARPA allocation? Hearing none, roll, please, Ian.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia. Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Aye.
North Dansville.
Aye.
Dundee.
Aye.
Ashen. Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater. West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted. Authorizing the chairman of the Livingston County Board of Supervisors to sign the following contract for the Livingston County Highway Department: Larry's Latrines, Everett Restoration, and West Wildlife.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Are there any questions or discussions on these contracts? Hearing none, I'll roll, please, Ian.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland.
Aye.
Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris. North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen. Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater. West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted. Authorizing the chairman of the Livingston County Board of Supervisors to sign the following contract for Livingston County for electricity used by Livingston County buildings through a contract awarded by Geneseo County Constellation New Energy.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Are there any questions or discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, the roll please, Ian.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Aye.
North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted. Authorization to submit a grant application to the Northern Border Regional Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Are there any questions on this grant application? Hearing none, the roll please, Ian.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland.
Aye.
Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Aye.
North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted. Appointing Director of Community Health for the County of Livingston, Margaret Patet.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Are there any questions on this appointment? Hearing none, the roll please, Ian.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris.
Aye.
North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted.
Congratulations, Margaret. Thank you for your service and working for Livingston County, and thank you for accepting, this full-time position in this role for us. And if you'd like to say anything, you're very welcome to.
I'd like to thank Chairman Lever and the board members and Ian for your time and support today. To be considered for this position is a huge honor. I'm grateful for all the support I've received from the county and through the administration at the health department and through all the center directors. I'm excited for this new opportunity to already work with an excellent team on the Board of Health and, at the health department. I'm excited to take on this new opportunity and committed to leading the community to a healthier and safer tomorrow. I'm excited for what the future holds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have authorizing the chairman of the Livingston County Board of Supervisors to sign the following contract for the Livingston County Records Management Department, certified document destruction and recycling.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Are there any questions or concerns on this resolution? Hearing none, the roll please, Ian.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius.
Aye.
Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland.
Aye.
Lester. Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris. North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen. Portage.
Aye.
Sparta.
Aye.
Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York. Ayes 4875, absent 179, adopted.
Very good. Probably like to continue our conversation that was started at Ways and Means on Monday. Ian, before we do that, do you have any other business to come before the board or?
No, I was just planning to talk about this issue.
Oh, no, good.
Nothing else major. Yeah.
Good then. We had some I was absent, but we had some discussion here Monday, and there's been some further gathering of information, some events that have occurred statewide, and Ian and Shannon have both, been in contact with, their peers and associations of county, different things, so I think it's appropriate for us to have, some discussion and, decide, how as a county, what action we take, and, basically to protect our county. And we also, Tracy and Jenna here, they have something to add, or any other department head that goes to assistant county administrators are both here too. So I guess it would be, Ian, I don't know if you'd like to lead it, but certainly we have, Shannon has some stuff also, so.
Yeah, sure.
Have a good robust discussion.
Yep. So we did have just to sort of set the table, we had some discussion at the Ways and Means Committee about the looming issue associated with the transfer of asylum seekers / migrants from New York City to places upstate in the county, right? So there was quite a few counties that issued state of emergencies that then led to executive orders. So there was a lot of chatter amongst the county's executive administrators, legislatures, boards, NISAC, county attorneys happened to be meeting at the same time all this was going on. So there's lots of different viewpoints, information sharing, questions, etc. State had a call this week, and separate, in addition to that, I had a one-on-one call with the state to try to feel them out exactly what might be happening in Livingston County. Technically speaking, the state of emergency is a chairperson, chairman designation. So if you remember, we did that last during COVID. I think that was probably the last time we did one. So it carries with it certain powers and abilities and authorities. Executive orders usually follow a state of emergency. The question was posed of us locally, where are things at that point in time? Contiguous to us, Stu Bend, Ontario, and Monroe were in addition to Livingston, were in the area of the Finger Lakes, kind of the Glow region that had not done a state of emergency. That was Monday, of course. Now, fast forward, Monroe County has done a type of state of emergency, although it differs a little bit versus the ones that we were talking about when we were talking about them Monday. I'm sure Shannon can kind of give me some of the technicalities and legalities. I talked to the state on, I guess it was Monday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon. I talked with the state. Right now, SUNY Geneseo, in their words, is not in the cards, at least for the next month or so, was the terminology. But it did check a lot of boxes. They referred to that as having capacity issues. They did do an assessment of every single state asset in the SUNY system to see if it was possible to, are they compliant with the buildings, right? Do they have any deferred maintenance? Is there anything moving that they need? Where does it fit in the overall physical footprint of the campus? Is it proximity to transportation, public transportation, services? No areas have been identified in Livingston County to place folks here. Now, again, not to split hairs, but you've got the city, you've got the state. So New York City, I guess you could say potentially could be trying to do some things directly outside of the state, but right now we're supposedly working in concert with one another. They did indicate they would coordinate directly with us if they chose to go the SUNY route. I'll leave it to you to how we would define coordinate directly with. New York City supposedly, their terminology, pays all the freight on these individuals if they need sort of services and programs. That was noted as including security, case management, transportation, housing, food, and services. That was the listing that was tabulated as far as the state calls go. DSS would be, involved if they're eligible. We're being told many / most are not eligible because they have to sort of pass an eligibility test just as much as you and I would if we present at social services. But New York City would be billed and charged. There's a bunch of asterisks to that. So if they get displaced out of this temporary housing and all of a sudden show up in Mount Morris, does it become our charge and our dime? If they're eligible, we believe that to be the case. New York City is really not coordinating that well. That's sort of my take. The feds are not helping that, or again, that's sort of my take. They are trying to expedite work paperwork authorization for anyone that does get transferred out of the city. Because of their words, they want to work. And again, I'm paraphrasing conversations and meetings with the state here. There's possibly some pre-screen partnership opportunities with farm and or nursing labor. My comments here were that's probably a stretch though, to be honest. Salina, which is a town in Onondaga County, got an injunction Tuesday, a restraining order, where the town zoning and the town codes came into play, not so much the state of emergency of the county, although the county also sought and received a similar injunction. That was a hotel that had a New York City-based owner who somehow connected with the city and was seeking to take on a bunch of these folks. And a county was attempting to prevent that from happening, as was the town. And at least initially, I guess they've been successful because as soon as it happened, they sought something to stop it from happening. Otherwise, the state indicated point blank that if they have a state asset, that they likely will do whatever they want with the state asset. So if the state wants to place migrants or asylum seekers in the state of Geneseo's campus, State University, they said that they will and they would. They did indicate that. I stated that we would seek approval for these moves at the local level, and that's what we indicated in our position, to which they replied, they reiterated their statement previously, which was that they would do what they want to do with state assets, sort of regardless of states of emergency and regardless of formal positions to the contrary. That's sort of the update as far as from where we left off Monday. So there's been a couple more nuances to that, but that's sort of the lay of the land, if you will.
Shannon, what do you have?
Sure. So just to give you some perspective as to legally what this all means, state of emergency is a power that granted to local government, county specifically, that you're essentially allowed to go under a local state of emergency when there is immediate, clear threat of public safety. So when Ian initially came to me, what should we do, what kind of discussions we have before, my immediate reaction was, have we heard that a bus is coming our way? As far as I'm concerned, immediate threat, as it's going to happen, it's just a matter of time, and we have true reason to believe that that's going to take place. And the initial work that went into place, that was what we reacted to. They had heard information that buses were heading their way. So from my perspective, it makes sense that we have a notification for a local state emergency to be put in place. The only real benefit, as far as I can tell legally, by going under a local state emergency, is our power to issue the emergency orders. However, what those emergency orders can do or what they can protect us against is extremely limited because it almost becomes police-like because we're inhibiting people's abilities to really recite curfew. We're indicating that, here is the red tape, we can't have anything for outside of the zone. Real civil liberties are at stake and being restricted. The first EO that were issued downstate were straight up prohibition. These immigrants cannot come here point blank, and there's no licensing structure put in place. That is where the ACLU stepped in and presented legal challenges. And I think many counties didn't follow that structure because it was clear there was some constitutional problems with that kind of EO. From there, you saw Rockland County roll out with a canvas licensing structure that, okay, we're not going to prohibit these buses from coming here. However, only with permission. The county has to know about it, you have to have a license, and here are the parameters in which the license will be issued. Go back to that decision happened late yesterday afternoon, and the hotels have commenced a lawsuit against every county that has a deal like that in place. And that the argument's going to be, you're overreaching and you don't have the right to sell me out of your business. I'm a private argument kind of ran into and then the most recent iteration of these EOs came this morning in Albany County. where it was, okay, we will accept the 200, you said you're going to send our way, but not until you coordinate with our local DSS. We had a successful plan in place as to how we were going to be housed, curfews, security that's going to come with them, and then, of course, the license that goes with the agreement to these 200 only in New York City will pay the entire bill, the entire time that they're here, and there might have been even a time limit that took place. Personally, what are you going to do if they don't comply? Like, what if they send them here anyways? I'm of the opinion that EOs give a false sense of security. They're not really worth much. And there are other ways to go about it if you want to learn that about the time that you're on. And this is where you're going to see the injunction. This is where you're going to see petitions to the local Supreme Court to get a stay so the bus can drive. And so far, Broward County was successful in that endeavor at the local level. I'm sure there's going to be an appeal, so you have to keep in mind if you go that path, there's going to be, legal fees that go for that on an hourly basis type of thing. Because quite frankly, this is not something that my office is seeking to do. There's just two of us, and there's so much stuff going on that we would like to have to see outside counsel to keep their thumb on every move that's made, all the petitions that are filed, if there's been a certain time frame to file, things like that. So, the other piece, perhaps, that needs to be explored is I talked to Jen Rodriguez with the Department of Health, and they do issue permits to every hotel in our county, and permit to do business at the hotel in the short-term rental. And as part of that permitting process, there's inspections done, and obviously it's code. So perhaps there's something we want to explore that could be done with the permits that are issued to the business. But again, with every decision, there's going to be rollback, and the very hotels help house some of our own population at homeless. We start messing with their ability to do business. Are they going to be so kind to us when we meet them and contract with them? But as far as the injunction, a lot of it revolves around no longer using the hotels for the temporary purpose that it's meant to be. It's going to be a long-term stay that no longer meets the parameters of what hotels are. And the other populations, summer populations, are construction projects. They stay in these hotels much longer than the short-term rentals meant to be. So, and we can't treat populations differently. We can't say we're looking for construction workers and accommodate for refugees. That's a huge constitutional problem.
Sounds good, thank you. Jen, do you or Tracy have anything to add that we have any information before we have like a board discussion? Or?
The only other thing I mentioned on Monday during the meetings is that we oversee hotels that are temporary residences, so that's why it's classified, but it is explicitly exempt from cities, so we stay homes, we have no authority over that other than as per New York City rule. We do have public health businesses, but I think that would be a leap for us to be able to utilize that, and it's not written in our sanitary code, but we rely on state law for 11%.
Thank you, Jen.
We do not have contracts with the hotels that we place individuals, homeless individuals, but as opposed to this, yesterday we had 26 individuals placed, 2 families placed with that security home, we got a contract with them. Out of the 26, 7 are not county placements, 3 in Wyoming County, 4 in Cornell, the remainder are at Geneseo Inn, Green Lake, and Lotus in Geneseo. One of the challenges from the DSS perspective is, to your point, Shannon, right now, in some behaviors, they have homeless, and we place them somewhere in our analysis because we don't know if they told them to come into a file application. If they don't, that is 100% local share. So usually the homeless are picked up by the sheriff's department or law enforcement agencies to get home. So I think that's a consideration here. I want for them to know if somebody shows up as homeless after hours, or if they're not eligible, what is it? What is our position if they're not eligible? Because right now, the position has been everybody that presents as homeless. So I just wanted that they're after.
Tracy, you still have problems trying to take care of the clients that you have for rooms, right?
Right.
You have a shortage yourself.
Right. Like the high health that was population that was not resource rich. I'm also a little skeptical of how that funding will come to us, and the same problem with 50. So,
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I'll open it up, I guess, at this time for board questions, board comments as to how we proceed. So, any board members? Yes, Deb.
Yeah, I heard last night through Homeland Security, I have some contacts, that the state of New York is going to reopen the Groveland mothballed facility, and Homeland Security has already been there. Remember, this is a state-owned facility. And that they're looking at putting 1,500 people in that facility. Livingston, yeah, the Livingston facility in Groveland. It actually sits in the town of Groveland, I believe. So,
1,500 prisoners or
No.
migrants?
refugees.
What did Bill tell us? He said they're working on giving it back to the IDA.
Well, there was a meeting this week, there was a public meeting where, is it Monday or Tuesday this week? Monday?
It was Monday.
Yeah. So Empire State Development Board did effectuate the approval of the transfer. Basically, I think it's a two-pronged process. I mean,
Yep.
we've been basically waiting on that for a period of time now in the years. I have not heard that. I had point blank asked that. They didn't say.
Didn't tell you, did they?
No, they frankly didn't say it was, they said nothing about it. They said, no one's been looking at that. That's not in the cards.
Homeland Security did look at it, is my understanding from the person I talked to, and I trust the person that I spoke to. And the state police were aware of it too, just so you know that. They did look at the facility, and it is still legally a New York State facility. So New York State can do whatever they choose to do with it, and this is going to be a problem.
Any other board members? Yes, I.
Couple things. Now, if we get some, or some of the other counties get some, are they allowed to have a driver's license, or we get a bunch of them that will just grab a car and go? We had an incident down in Mudville by me. I mean, that's about as far back as you get. They come in and they shot some deer with a .22. Well, game warden got them, took them down. He called me and I unlocked the town hall. And then they had to hire interpreters to come from Niagara Falls. So it cost them more for the interpreters. They got out of the fine. And they didn't have a license. They just borrowed somebody's car. How far can we go and say, well, that's okay, or is it illegal, and throw them in jail? Because I think you're going to get a lot more of that too. You're seeing people that don't speak English, and I don't know whether they come from the border or they're working for some farmers, but you're seeing it all the time in the store. And I'm sure everybody in here as well as myself, as constituents, are always asking, what's going on? What can we do? What do they do? And I didn't know what the issue would be as far as the law would stand up to it.
So, I'm not.
And could you put, I can't,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now? Is
Yeah.
that working? Okay. So I'm not going to pretend to know everything about the process to successfully be able to stay here, the asylum process. But it's my understanding when they reach New York City, they are connected into that system so they can begin the process of trying to stay here permanently, get their working papers, etc. So there's going to be terms associated with your ability to stay here and go through that process. So if there is criminal activity that you're caught up in, I do believe there's reason for that you will be deported and not allowed to continue in that process. That's the best answer I can give you at this point.
Sure. Other board members? Yes, Mr.
Is there Is there any counties that have had a state of emergency in place that have gotten placements already?
Yes.
So the state has walked right through those state of emergencies and placed them in.
That would have been Onondaga County, absent that injunction that they obtained through the local Supreme Court. But that's going to be appealed, no doubt.
Sure.
Mhm.
I have a question. Shannon, this is for you. So, it seems I kind of sort through all this. We really don't have really a leg to stand on per se. I mean, I think if they're going to SUNY's or wherever,
Right.
any facility that the state owns, we really can't do too much of that.
Absolutely. State-owned property, we are backed into a corner and we are faced to accept it.
So then the issue comes down to the local hotels.
Right.
and Motels, which, at least in my mind, I think we kind of utilize them a lot
We do.
from our end. Plus, it's summer's coming on, and we're going to have travelers going through, it's like running into tourism and what have you. So, I think, at least in my mind, and I don't know if it's an executive order or not, but would it, if the state is going to do something, can we force their hand, or New York City? Mostly, can we force their hand to say, all right, you got to give us a heads up? And it would be like an executive order, so you got to give us some notice if they are coming, so we can be somewhat prepared, because I'm assuming there's going to be needs that they're going to have. So, would that be a point about it? Because I don't really believe at the end of the day, we get past some of these executive orders. The state's going to do what they want to do. They're going to, it's just going to walk right in. So, we had something in place that said, okay, if Livingston County does get it, we need to know in advance so we can be somewhat prepared. Is that outlined?
We did that.
We did that.
Yeah.
We've already done that.
But I mean.
One, I don't think it's
something
on,
is
one,
like-
I don't think it's on the line. Two, we did do it, albeit,
In the letter.
how, and I said this before, how receptive / impactful will it be to them that we said that? I mean, are they just gonna scoff at it and do what they want anyways?
I'm just
My
saying-
gut is probably yes, but we have said that. We said we want to basically approve any placements period, so we can tell them that we're either able to handle it or not. So here's the two things need to
So
happen.
why would you put that in an executive order? We just said a
No,
lot.
our executive orders have no power over the state. It's only our local geographical area.
Yeah, they would have to play ball, right? It's not really that, right?
Well,
No,
we can do an executive order and say the same thing, we would have to first declare a state of emergency. We can
Right.
certainly do that.
right.
I mean, that's doable. I think the two things that are important on the, both the state of emergency and what happens and what we're gonna do, no matter where these folks are placed, if they are placed, is that we are seeking approval, okay, why? So if, as I said something before, if 200, guys from Utah who were, on some mission, wanted to come here and live here for a period of time in a temporary housing, why and what would we care? Okay, so I think the questions are, well, here's why we care in this situation. There's no work papers, we don't think, right? So there's no work permit, so there's idle time for 4 to 6 months, right? And two, we do not know if these folks, because there's no work permits in place, we don't know as if they have an immediate, and for us would be super impactful, crushing demand on our social services. We just don't know. I mean, we're ill-equipped to handle, like Tracy said, a couple of dozen housing needs right now, if they came from Caledonia, Geneseo, and Groveland, let alone if they came from out of the country and we need some sort of, housing needs. So if we had the answers to those two questions, I don't think we'd be doing a lot of like this, because we would get those answers addressed, we'd get them mitigated, and we, figure out a solution. So I think those are our questions, and I think no matter what we do, how are we ever going to get answers to those questions?
So the answer is we probably just do nothing.
I'm not saying do nothing, I'm just saying,
Well, pretty much that's what it is. We sent the letter, right? So I guess maybe that's just what we have. I
think in addition to that, I said the other day, just because we haven't issued the SOE doesn't mean we've been seeing what else we can do. Like, so that Salina thing came, the town of Salina came Tuesday midday. Right off the bat, we said, I wonder if there's something we can extract out of this injunction that could be useful and of impact to us. Administrative code change, resolution, yes, potentially executive order, vis-a-vis state of emergency. We don't know yet. We literally just got that yesterday. We got to dig into that a little further. The Albany and the Monroe County ones just came today that might lend and shed some light on the legalities of what they're looking at, because they were not the traditional EO state of emergencies that we saw from the other 59 counties that did them. So there's a couple of things there, and I think that might be a tool in a toolbox that you have at the ready to put it in place that, in my opinion, has at least as much usefulness, potentially more usefulness than everything you've seen to date, which has been almost too preemptive. But that's my thing.
Anyone else? Yes.
I just have a comment that some of us too here have empty group homes that the state has abandoned, and that's probably another issue.
Yeah, I can, that was brought up the other day. Now that I have this contact, I can ask specifically about the group homes as well. And I can ask about this rumor on the prison too.
And I was told that Homeland Security was already at the prison, so I went through it.
Yes.
He's got a contact with the state, and I mean, I know the state doesn't have a great track record of telling us accurate details and facts, but they said that they told him point blank that the prison is not being looked at, and they also told him that SUNY Geneseo was checking in boxes. So I think we've got hope that that's the case. Again, our hotels and motels are limited in this county. It seems to me if they're gonna send bus loads, they're not gonna send them to the Hampton Inn where there's 30 rooms or 40 rooms. They're gonna send them to someplace where there's 200 or 300 rooms, hopefully. We don't know that, obviously, but I think we've got a few things going for us.
Right.
SUNY Geneseo doesn't check a lot of the boxes. It's pretty limited. I mean, the amount of rooms that are available there, it's clearly not like other SUNY campuses. But our stock of hotel rooms are fairly limited in our county. Any other time, I would say that maybe is a detriment to tours and things like that because people have to travel. Now I'm gonna tell you that's probably not a bad thing. So, again, I don't see where other than the letter we've already sent that asks to please be included, I don't know what else we can do.
I'm kind of the mindset not to declare a state of emergency right today, not really.
I just want to make sure that we don't miss taking an action that we might take in preparation for you to, you can declare a state of emergency tomorrow night at midnight. if you feel
Anytime
like.
I want.
There's nothing we need to do to prepare you for that.
No,
so.
but I certainly want the support of the board and the decisions. I think the important thing though is if we don't declare it, that's okay. But we watch these EOs, these new EOs that have happened just in the last day, see if there's something, maybe some other county will come up with something that might lend itself to us, our situation, and leaving, as Shannon recommended, kind of leaving the flexibility open that we, in the meantime, being talked about, looking at our codes, to see if we start building up something that we have and we're ready in case we find they aren't running. And I guess unless the board's totally in disagreement with this kind of path forward, that's, I mean, anybody, just, please tell me if you think that's wrong, but I mean, I'm kind of sit tight, wait, see what we can learn from other counties, because it's evolving kind of every day, but we certainly, the letter is important, it shows that we're not being complacent, we're, trying to do as much as we can. I've had a lot of people approach me, and once you do kind of explain the emergency, the declaring a state of emergency, the EOs are kind of, they seem to, you got to take a little time and walk your way through it, but people seem generally agreeable with the stance that we're taking today. And I guess unless somebody's totally you know, I'm happy with that, where we're at, the way we're looking at it, trying to be proactive, trying to be ready to go when we know something for sure. And Ian, I'm hoping that, you know, some of those contacts you have will, you know, continue to reach out to them, and if something comes along, hopefully they'll reach out to you. So I mean,
Yeah, I think
that's kind of where we're at, unless somebody's got a real huge issue with that thought process right this minute.
I think the biggest thing with that we've learned that's been sort of evolving is that, so for example, let's just say that prison thing is true, right? I would hope it wouldn't be, but let's just say it is. Or the SUNY Geneseo in round 2 becomes the identity, you know, say they do these things in rounds or something like that, and they end up saying that, you know, SUNY Geneseo is due to get placements there. We would have to think long and hard about what, if any, tools in the toolbox we actually have to sort of deal with that effectively. You know? I mean, and if we don't, then how do we deal with the, you know, spin the positives of that happening as best we can? Because if there's nothing we can do about it, there's no sense, you know, being negative and saying we can't do anything about it, because it's going to happen, and we need to somehow make, as I said, make chicken soup out of chicken, you know what. You know, if that's the case, if, you know, our hand is forced and we maybe weren't ready to receive something, and we, you know, we didn't know how to accommodate them from the social service perspective, we were worried about housing, those are all legitimate, you know, very reasonable concerns to have, and we all have them up here in the crowd. But if the state chooses to say, you know, 200 people are going to Geneseo tomorrow, even though to me, I think that's mind-bogglingly dumb. If they do that, we got to figure out an administrative pivot. So I think that's kind of what we're trying to do now, is to figure out administratively what we can do. There's one more thing too. State emergencies have a timeline structure, right?
Yes.
So I think that's important, because I kind of had lost sight of that myself, because COVID had allowed us to, remember, just have almost a perpetual state of emergency. Post-COVID, they made some changes there, they reverted back, so they're 30-day stretches of time, correct?
Right, and each EO is on a 5-day stretch, so every time we have one, we always have to be sure if we want to keep the EO in place or some version of it, we have to file it with the Secretary of State, and sometimes it requires to file with other agencies, like during COVID, it was Homeland Security as well.
So for example, I know of one county who has not filed, is very much situated like we are, that are putting things in place, because there's no sign that there's going to be any placements in this county either. However, putting stuff into place, because right as you do it, you've got a 30-day stretch to basically work within the confines of that 30-day stretch that you declare. And I don't think you can extend those, can you?
No.
So, I mean, if you've got a state of emergency, you want to sort of time it right too. So I think we've got that in our back pocket, because we haven't kind of played that card yet, because we haven't thought that we needed to play it. But if you play it, then you've got your stretch of time to work with under all your EOs and what have you.
And the other thing, I'm sorry, Eric, I think it was yesterday or maybe this morning, timeframes are blurry, Mayor Adams actually filed his own action downstate seeking to change status, so he no longer is forced to take more immigrants from Texas. So kind of slowing the trickle into New York City, which could perhaps slow the trickle to the Finger Lakes region.
Eric first, and
I've got a question. What if Livingston County provides no services? Are these ladies held responsible personally?
No. Community.
What if there is no services available? What if we don't provide one single service? Are they going to leave? What's going to happen?
I don't believe many of them will even qualify, to be honest. Undocumented, I don't think they're going to be able to get through Tracy's protocol to get them on formal government assistance.
What about Department of Health?
So what services would you provide them?
We do, one of the biggest concerns, and it does some concern perspective, SUNY Geneseo, would be the influx of SUNY, because we do see anyone that needs vaccinations or health records for college now, with folks from overseas, we provide those. So we would be concerned about the health needs, just like they're not vaccinated or they have other health issues. So we would have to, we don't turn anyone away from health needs currently. So we work now with Side Farms or anyone that needs assistance. That would be certainly
anything more?
Again, is she held responsible if her department does not provide those services?
The county would be sued because of her, actions as an agent of the county. But
Be sued by
personally,
who, the state or the migrant?
who knows? I would guess the migrant didn't have the resources, so it's gonna be some like ACLU or some kind of nonprofit that's aimed at helping people in their subsidies.
I'm just, the only reason I'm asking these questions is if they happen to show up here,
Sure.
how do we push them out as fast as we can? Not providing zero services. And I know that's not very humane, but if we provide nothing, will they leave sooner? Or will they leave
Right.
immediately? To go somewhere else that maybe they're gonna get what they need.
I
And I hope they don't come. Because we don't need the burden and the stress on our systems, and what if they do? Do we have to do anything? Do we take a risk of getting sued? Who's gonna sue us? The state? I don't know.
I'm sorry, we would still have to make some eligibility determinations if they show up there for it.
Right.
So sometimes we can't hold up on providing, say, it's food stamps, SNAP benefits, through the verification process of the documents they provide. So I need to set it, we can't just say, no, you can't come in, we're not going to process your paperwork, we would still have to take that before to make some eligibility determinations. And I guess I would ask you for some guidance, say they were homeless, they weren't at SUNY, are you suggesting that we don't put them somewhere? Because right now, that's what you do with anybody else after hours in the community.
Sure. So Tracy, I do believe they would be there voluntarily, and that wouldn't be the plan coming out of New York City. New York City is going to want them housed together at like some congregate site, hotel, whatever. So there's going to be a plan that comes with them. If they choose to voluntarily leave and disengage from that plan, I think it's fully in our right to say, no, you came here with a plan through New York City, you need to go back to that hotel and stay where the benefits are there for you.
Yeah, the communication difference, they were supposed to have a car after hours staff, or a casework staff, and not social welfare. So
Sure.
I just want to be clear on what the expectations are.
Sure, and, I know, you can always believe what the state says, but it's my understanding that all these services are supposed to be coming with that bus. The case managers, the security, the rules of this site, curfews, et cetera. Or at the very least, we would be expected to hire people to help with those things, but New York City's gonna foot the bill.
Whether we get one or thousands, they're not going to stay where they put them forever. So eventually, these people are going to come out into our communities. How do we deal with that? I mean, this is an immediate crisis right now, but beyond this immediate crisis, there's tomorrow. And I don't think there's a community here in this county that's able to take large influxes of people, especially people who may not have the skill sets to live here. You can't keep them housed in a SUNY building or in a prison or in a hotel indefinitely. They are going to come out into the community. That's something we really all need to look at. What resources do we have as towns and villages? Because we're the ones that are going to have to deal with this too. Not just at the county level, but at our municipal levels. And with these people coming in, they bring a whole different set of problems. We all know this. They may not speak the language well. Again, there may be criminal activities, and once they leave whatever enclave they came in on, and after a period of time, this is going to trickle down into our communities. And again, they're going to apply for services. I mean, somebody's got to feed them forever, I don't think New York City's going to provide food and housing and clothing and medical care forever for these people. This is a large influx of population. I don't think anybody here is ready to deal with that. I know I certainly am not. My community couldn't handle this. So these are things we all have to look at and think about. Because it's going to happen. Be it one or thousands. It's coming.
Question I have, what happens if all of a sudden I get somebody comes in, Jason gets somebody come in, you come in, and we turn them down for work because they want to work. You don't even know what they're saying to start with. Are we in trouble with the state because we told them we weren't going to hire them?
No. As long as you're not discriminate, like, I'm not hiring you because you speak Spanish. I mean, you just can't discriminate. But if someone doesn't fit the bill with the skill set that you need,
But you don't understand them, so does they fit the bill or not, even if they had,
sure.
I mean, whether it's Spanish or, they say there's 168 countries that's come in. And the other reason, you know, they're over here, I'm sure a lot of them are good people and they want to get a better life for themselves. There's also some terrorists they've been catching. Also, Biden's looking for votes. Now, can these people vote if they come over here without, I guess that's a question for Gary.
Yeah, I mean, well, a couple things. I mean, one is that they've, it's all about the paperwork, no matter if this was somebody that came from Canada or Guatemala tomorrow, either one person or 50 people. It's all about people. So it's about, do they have work permits? Do they have an ID? You know, do they process the applications correctly, to your first question? You know, if those boxes are checked 6 months ago or 6 years ago, that person's probably going to be considered for employment in your place or any other place, frankly. Because, you know, the breadbasket of this county is being delivered by people that don't live here. Whether people like to think about it or not, including this county, including the farms in this county. But they came here through a process, though, with different permits and different structures, different bureaucracy. So this is a whole nother ball of wax because it's a different process. It's got more, you know, complexities to it. They've got to wait for some different permits. There's a 4 to 6 month adjudication process. That's why some of the questions are being asked about administratively, bureaucratically, because, look, we've got vacancies in the county. People want to work and they're qualified to work. Why wouldn't we want to hire them?
Well,
However, if we can't, we can't. So that's a question I have. I mean, how would that even be able to be spun if they can't physically work because they don't only work permits?
Governor was in Rochester, I think, last week, and she admitted and stated that these folks will not be able to work under the current laws. They do not have the ability to be hired at this point in time, and that she is working on changing that. It's going to take minimum of 6 months or more. That's why they're tying up hotel rooms for a year at a time. You know, my concern is, you know, you talk about civil liberties for these folks. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they're more than just refugees or asylum seekers. They're not here legally, the majority of them. And I think, again, like I said Monday, the protections for safety and welfare of our residents should take precedence. And there's a lot of concerns that come with that. Not having an SOE or an EO in place at this point in time is concerning to me because my understanding, limited, is that non-for-profits are being hired to place these folks. Now, the state is not going to know what these non-for-profits are doing. We're not going to know when that first busload comes into Geneseo for them to stay in the hotels. And at that point, is it too late? I mean, they're already here. Can you do a retroactive? Which I really doubt can happen for an EO to say that we're not able to accept them yet. A lot of the other points that were made today I agree with, but those concerns are a couple of ones that I have.
As an employer, I've got to fill out, I've got to have an I-9 for me from potential. So I got to have a couple forms of, you know, birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, something. So how do they, you know, not to get in the weeds on this.
But yeah, and I concede the fact that, you know, if they're going to put them in state-run, unowned facilities, we can't do anything about that. My concern is with the hotels. We've got, like Dave said, we've got a lot of workers coming in that are going to be spending, you know, a lot of time in hotel rooms and stuff. Are we going to halt, you know, construction on some of these solar projects and stuff because now there's no hotel rooms for them, you know? Just, I'm concerned about that bus flowing in. We're not going to know when it comes. It's just going to be here.
As we wind this down, does anybody have any other further comments?
I'll just keep us posted.
We will, you know, it's kind of evolving daily, and certainly if there's anything of Ian or Shannon sent out an email, you know, if there's something that comes up that some other county does, that we can take advantage of to help protect us or our position, we'll let the board be aware of that. Is there any other business to come before the board?
Move to adjourn from Geneseo.
Second, Lester.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried, our meeting stands adjourned.
Second.